Gus didn't believe in ghosts. Well, the regular sort anyway. If some sorry soul got left behind after the big sleep, that was their problem, not his. When they called him the Ghostbuster, it was because no busted compressor system, leaky thruster manifold, or wonky AI could withstand him. He was knee-deep in the guts of the Andromeda Queen, a once glorious luxury liner, now a glorified rust bucket, drifting at the edge of the Arcturus shipping lanes. Abandoned was the official word. Gus had a sneaking suspicion it was more like jinxed. Two crews had disappeared. Poof, just gone. Whispers echoed through the hauler hangouts. Electrical surges, ghostly voices in the comm systems, tools flying around on their own. That's some quality bull right there, Gus muttered, tightening a stubborn bolt. Seemed pretty standard malfunctions to him. Sure, he felt a prickle on his neck now and then, the odd whisper of cold air in the sealed compartment. But hey, that's just what 30-year-old ships did, right? He wiped a grease-smeared hand across his face and reached for his trusty duct tape. There ain't a problem in the verse duct tape, and a stubborn attitude can't fix. The snap echoed through the empty corridor. Gus swore. Something just hit him in the back of the head. All right, you prankster, game's on. Tools were rattling in their toolbox now. He spun around, wrench raised, but there was no one there. The corridors stretched out long and dusty, bathed in the flickering emergency lights. The next day was worse. The comm systems crackled with static. Then a distorted voice moaned over the speakers. It sounded like it had a mouthful of marbles. Gus tried to trace it, but it seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then the power fluctuated. His diagnostic pad went haywire, readings jumping all over the place. Focus, Gus, he grumbled. Gotta be a loose power coupling somewhere. He spent hours crawling through the ship's innards, but everything seemed in order. As night fell over the dead ship, frustration and unease started to twist in his gut. His footsteps echoed back to him, mocking. The hiss from a leaky coolant line sounded way too much like a whispered name. That was when he saw it, a flicker of movement at the end of the maintenance shaft. Not a shadow exactly, but a ripple in the air, like a heat haze. Gus narrowed his eyes. Show yourself, you malfunctioning. That's when the lights died, pitch black. Not even the faint glow of the emergency lights could cut through the thick darkness. Gus choked back a curse. Come on, Andromeda, he mumbled, fumbling for his utility torch. You wouldn't do this to an old pal, would you? The click was deafening in the silence. A thin beam of light sliced through the inky blackness. The faint ripple was back, right at the edge of the illumination. He inched forward, wrench gripped tight in one hand, the torch in the other. The ripple shimmered, and there was something in it now, a shape. No, shapes, eyes, dozens of eyes glowing in eerie green, blinked in and out of existence. His breath caught. Gus wasn't exactly the scared type, but this was pushing it. Still, the mechanic in him was stronger than the fear. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe an undiscovered species stowed away in the ventilation system. He squinted at the eyes, trying to make out more details. With a soft thrum that set his teeth on edge, the lights surged back to life. The ripple, the creature, was gone. Gus was alone again. There was no trace of a stowaway. Instead, the ship around him seemed to pulse. The hum of the auxiliary systems wasn't mechanical. It was almost like a heartbeat. All right, girl, Gus said to the Andromeda Queen, tracing the paneling with careful fingers. You're trying to tell me something, right? The next few days were a blur of frustrated diagnostics and even more frustrated tinkering. Everything checked out mechanically. Gus swore, he yelled at the ship, he pleaded with it. But the ship remained maddeningly silent. At night, the eyes returned, watching him. Then came the whispering. Not words, more like vibrations in the air that tickled the inside of his ears. It wasn't random. Gus sat on the floor of the engine room, back against a bulkhead, and tried to focus. Something was there, tugging at the edge of his mind. It was lonely and a little playful, like a lost pet. Lost, are you? Gus scratched his head. The duct tape came out again, but now not for repairs. He stuck strips along the walls, forming crude arrows. Follow the tape, see what you find. For 2 days, nothing. The ship remained stubbornly enigmatic. The whispering continued, the eyes flickered, and just when Gus started to think he was losing his mind, the breakthrough came. He was fixing a leaky coolant pipe, which he was sure wasn't leaking before, when he saw it. A ripple in the air followed the path of his duct tape arrows. It stopped in front of a concealed maintenance panel, the eyes blinking expectantly within the shimmering outline. Gus's hands hovered over the panel. It was sealed for a reason, probably contained something critical. But then again, critical systems wouldn't behave like a confused puppy, would they? With a grunt, he pried the panel loose. Inside, it wasn't a rat's nest of wires he found, but tendrils. They glowed softly, shifting color with a rhythm that echoed the whispers in his ears. "Hey there," Gus said, voice softer than he'd used in years. Hesitantly, he extended a finger and touched one of the tendrils. An electric jolt shot through him, but not one of pain. It was more like recognition. Suddenly, images began flooding his mind, not in words or clear pictures, but in raw feelings. Ancient loneliness, the desperate joy of finding someone who could see, a sense of playful curiosity tinged with fear. The whispering surged around him, but now it was clear, a chorus of tiny voices reaching out. He realized the eyes weren't part of the creature, but a way for it to perceive the world. The Andromeda Queen wasn't haunted. It was alive, or rather, it was home to an alien life form, a symbiotic consciousness, its essence intertwined with the ship itself. The previous crews, perhaps unaware or threatened, had likely sealed it away. Cut off alone, it must have been terrified. And when Gus arrived with his stubborn curiosity and disregard for the rules, it had finally found a way to communicate. Gus grinned. Now this was a problem he could handle. "All right there, buddy. Guess we got some work to do, making this ship a proper home for you," he said, setting aside his wrench and digging into his pockets for his most important tool. The duct tape unrolled. A promise of connection in the cold heart of the starship. The whispering transformed into a gentle hum. The ship had a new shipwright, and Gus, the Ghostbuster, had found himself a friend of a far more extraordinary kind. The transformation of the Andromeda Queen was slow, but miraculous. Gus spent weeks adapting the ship. Guided by the whispers and pulses of the ship mind, he now called Sparky, mostly because it liked the sound. Maintenance panels were replaced with shimmering membranes that glowed in response to Sparky's emotions. A soft blue for contentment, a fiery orange for excitement, a worried flicker of red when an old system threatened to fail. Sparky, in turn, learned to manipulate the ship's systems with increasing precision. Flickering lights became a rudimentary Morse code, the hum of power conduits, a song of welcome whenever Gus returned from a supply run. News spread quickly through the grimy spaceports. "The ghost ship's got a new mechanic, so it did," the stories went, a mix of fear and awe. Some called Gus crazy, others a genius. He ignored them all. He was too busy teaching Sparky the finer points of human swear words and sharing smuggled bottles of engine cleaner hooch with a symbiotic consciousness that turned out to have a surprising taste for the strong stuff. One drizzly night, sitting cross-legged on the bridge floor with Sparky's glow warming his back, Gus realized he was the happiest he'd been in ages. The Andromeda Queen was no longer just a rust bucket or a haunted ship. She was a pioneer, the first known case of human-alien symbiosis in action. And sure, the quarters were still cramped, the food still mostly came in ration packs. But out there, under the vast tapestry of stars, there was a home. There was family. "So," Gus grinned, taking a swig from the bottle, "think you're ready to take this old girl out for a spin? Show the verse what a mechanic and a spaceship ghost can do?" Sparky pulsed a mischievous pattern on the command console, the lights translating into an unmistakable, enthusiastic, Hell yeah! The Andromeda Queen shuddered, engines coming to life with a roar. The stars shimmered, a boundless expanse awaiting.